Did you find that empty room that was in your image?
What's so amazing, that's an incredible question you just asked me, because at first I believed it was the house, right? The house was empty in the house. And then I got called by the lodge at Woodlock in 2006, right, to begin teaching there. I mean, literally, it was a gift from nowhere, right? Like I didn't apply. Okay. So here's where I'm going with this. Probably about 10 years later, I'm in the room. The main room that I teach in at the lodge is called the Willow room. I'm in there doing Qigong, and it suddenly comes to me, oh my God, this is the empty room, because this one only brings people in, but then it's empty. It never gets filled with stuff. It's an empty room. And this wasn't even built when I had the vision. And then it was like, oh my God, because I've learned so much in that room. That room has been a journey in and of itself. And so for years I thought it was the house, but the house filled up, right? But this room has never filled up. You never know where something is taking you, and it doesn't go with logical linear time. It doesn't fit into those things. And I would say another part of all of these journeys that we take is patience. Patience to just be with what's happening, because you have no idea where you are being led.
Welcome to the Enchanted Earth Podcast, where you will hear stories of nature with the power to transform our lives. These sacred stories are begging to be shared now. So listen in as my guest today shares one of their own.
So welcome, everybody. Today we have with us Kazzrie Jaxen, and let me tell you a little bit about her. Kazzrie Jaxen is a jazz pianist, vocalist, composer, and recording artist who has been a vital part of the improvising music scene for many years. She's also taught Qigong, meditation, sound healing, and Rumi poetry at the Lodge at Woodlock in Hawley, Pennsylvania since 2006. So welcome, Kazzrie.
Thank you, Maureen. It's absolutely beautiful to be here.
Oh, well, it is such a pleasure because you and I have known each other since it was actually 2013 when I was first at the Lodge at Woodlock. And I just have to say that attending all of your different classes is something that I look forward to every time I'm a guest speaker at the Lodge at Woodlock. I always look up to say, what is Kazzrie maybe teaching this weekend? Because every class that you teach and what you bring to the class is so soothing and calming, but also just really soul enriching. It allows us to go deeper than most, say, classes on regular like yoga practice and so on. So I always look forward to that.
Oh, thank you so much. That means everything to me, especially because you walked into my classroom and it was like light coming in. And of course, that changes the whole atmosphere and what I end up doing, because, you just bring so much luminosity with you. And so we always made an instant connection. And I was so thrilled about your first book, and then equally thrilled about this new book, which is so important. And just, the Enchanted Earth, but it's enchanting to experience what you went through to actually bring this book about and how important it is. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. When you're creating something, and as you know, as a creator, you just never know how it's going to resonate with others. And it's almost unimportant because it's something that you need to do to express something that just needs to be expressed within you. And but I am so grateful for the resonance with others out there in the community. So thank you. And I did want to just mention too how fun it was when I was taking your classes at the lodge, and then my first book came out, Creating Luminous Spaces, and you and I were talking about the 5 elements, and I said, I would say you're the water element because you just are so flowy, and the way you present yourself in these classes is soft and flowing. And then when you told me that you were a jazz pianist and you were like used to being on the stage and doing all these like wild improvisations, I was just blown away. I was like, whoa, that's another side to Kazzrie that I never knew. And I'm like, that is so fire. And you said, you are really identified with fire, right?
Yeah. Yeah, both things. And what's interesting is astrologically, I've been told I have no water in my chart, which
Hmm.
it's funny because I always want to be near water. I love water. I'm actually dressing in watercolors today. And I feel like the river up here has been my teacher, my healer. So I'm so drawn to it. So it's an interesting thing, like because it's energetically is different than astrologically, and I loved when
Yes.
you said water. I loved it. It was like, oh,
Well, yeah, I mean, the practices of Qigong are
mm,
so much about being in that flow, the flow of
yeah.
Qi, universal energy. So, so before we go to your big story, can you tell me a little bit about the land that raised you?
Oh, where I grew up.
Mm.
Interesting. Well, I grew up on Long Island. Um, and was born in Glen Cove, Glen Head, and then when I was 7, moved to Manhasset. And at that time, there were neighborhoods and, it was residential, but there were still little forests. Like we would go to somebody's house and then we would go out the backyard and end up, jumping across streams and exploring the woods. And you would never know it today that that was there. So I am really grateful for having that much nature, even though we were in the suburbs. So it wasn't like being out in the country, but every little bit, we had lots of trees. The street that I lived on was lined and still is with gorgeous, big, tall trees. And it creates like this beautiful corridor. And I was there recently and very happy that they are all still there. And it's even more beautiful in terms of the way the trees have grown up and they make this channel, down the road. It's very beautiful. Yeah.
Like a channel of water.
Yeah.
And as you were speaking about where you're from, Glen Cove,
Mhm.
there's the water.
Oh, that's right.
Right,
Yeah.
isn't it funny? Like we have these place names in our history, and we often don't really think about what the meaning of those words represent. Isn't that strange?
Yeah. And that I was very near water. We were on the North Shore, so but we didn't see the water all the time. In other words, you would have to go somewhere to see the water. I couldn't see the water like on my daily walks the way I can here. But, or we would drive to the south to Jones Beach. That was a big part of growing up was the ocean, and even though it's a lot of sand, a lot of walking. It's not someplace I would be drawn to now, but the ocean was we went there a lot, and that informed, something. It was a bigger current, you know?
Oh, I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have different the North Shore is more the sound, right? And the coves and the little inlets. Um, but the ocean, And so it was right between these two things. And you're right. And I have never thought about that. So thank you. Because that actually makes sense in the way that my life moved and took me somewhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just to interject my little origin of Deer Park.
Oh my God.
And Deer Park is not an attractive town. I think it was when my parents first moved there, but they moved there from the Bronx. And it's just in Middle Island, right? It's closer to the South Shore. So we did go to the South Shore ocean beaches, but I never really thought about the name
The name.
until somebody asked me, and I went, wow, that means a lot to me. So anyhow, I know, so you lived in New York City for a good part of your adult life, right?
Yes. Yes, I did. Yeah. My jazz life was there. All my friends. I actually moved down from Boston to study with a teacher who lived in Queens. And so I spent many years in Queens before then I did end up moving into the city. So it wasn't where I thought I would end up, but there I was. And that was the hub of music and this beautiful center. And there was such a beautiful tribe of musicians that I came up with and learned to improvise with, learn about this beautiful, again, this flowing thing, right? It's letting go of the rules, letting go of any kind of constrictions and becoming a vessel that something can flow through. Yeah.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Now, you talk about living somewhere else now, and do you have kind of a pivotal moment of why you moved out of the city? Like, what was going on that you made a major transition in your life?
Well, actually, what was going on was that I was having a health challenge, which nobody could figure out what it was. And finally, I got a diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome. And at the time, this is 30 years ago.
Wow.
So it wasn't, I mean, I was going to a lot of holistic, I went to regular doctors, they had no solution. I went to a lot of different holistic doctors in the city, all wonderful, but nobody had a center way of dealing with it. It was all, well, we'll do this. It's heavy metals, or it's, yeast, or it's parasites, or it's, all these different things, but nothing ever brought me out. And it was preceded by a week-long viral, um, something happened where I was very sick for a week, and instead of coming out of it and coming back to myself, I never did. I never fully did. And then it became very, very hard to function. And gradually it became harder and harder to the point where I couldn't live my life. And it was just odd because I felt myself in there, but I couldn't get her. So I had no energy. My brain wasn't working. Everything was so hard. And so I had to stop teaching, and gradually I had to stop playing because I got very weak. And so finally somebody suggested, maybe you shouldn't be here right now. I was trying to find another place. I thought maybe it was mold in my apartment but in the meantime, I had started taking little weekend trips to just give myself a break up to Mohonk Mountain, which is in New Paltz, New York. I would just go by myself, and and it felt incredible. And so I had this rest, I had this relief from what was going on. And I did that a few times, and then I started seeing a picture. In my third eye, I started seeing a vision of an empty room. And I didn't know what it meant, except I thought, well, okay, maybe I'm supposed to now find a place in New Paltz where I could go to regularly and it would be more affordable and all of that. Um, and so I kind of, looked around, but nothing really felt right. And this vision was about nothingness. In other words, no piano, no books, nothing but a bed and white walls. That was it, a place to sleep and a place to be. And that was the vision that I had that kind of drew me towards something that I didn't even know I was moving towards, right? And then a person who was actually studying music with me called me one Saturday morning and she said, "There's an ad in the New York Times. It's for a house on the river." And she knew I wanted to be near water. That was something. And she said, "I think you have to go see this," right? And it was the way she said it. I just took it as an instruction, right? And so I arranged to do this, to take a bus, and I actually had a friend who met me at the bus station who lived in Pennsylvania. And it was a house that was actually on the Delaware River in the town that I live in now, which is a beautiful town called Callicoon. But instantly I knew this wasn't the space for me. The rooms weren't big, so if I did want to bring a piano up, it wouldn't have worked. But there was something very charming about the town. It was just one street. So after we looked at the house, we took a walk. The bridge to Pennsylvania was right around the corner from where this house was. And so we took a walk out onto the bridge and we were looking upriver. Absolutely gorgeous view. And as I was standing there, I literally felt, in quotes, saw, in quotes, a cord come right out of my heart, and it just sprang out of my heart like a long anchor, and it went into the river. And I had no idea what was going on because I felt it, but nothing like that had ever happened to me before. And I thought, "Oh my God, what is this?" But I knew my soul felt something for the river, but it was such an amazing demonstration. So I didn't quite know what to do about it, except that I stayed overnight and went to a different realtor the next day, and they actually took me to the house, which I ended up buying in a state of terror, right? Like I had no intention to buy a house. I had no intent, but I thought, okay, this is how I'm gonna give myself a break from the city. And yes, it was only intended to be someplace I could go to, a refuge, right?
Right.
But it, things went a different way. So yeah,
Yeah, I just have a question.
yeah.
So this experience when you're standing on the bridge with your friend, looking upriver, like, can I would imagine some listeners are like, "What? Huh? How could that happen?" I'm wondering if you could just take us back to that moment because these are pivotal moments in our life. These are numinous experiences, sacred moments. I'm wondering if you could take us back to that moment of standing on the bridge and just kind of give us as much detail as you can, a sensory experience of what occurred.
Mm. Well, I remember being moved, even overwhelmed by the beauty of what I was witnessing. This gorgeous river, gentle rolling hills. I mean, and there's an island that comes down the center of the river right there. So it's just people take lots of pictures of this view. There's something about it. Um, so I'm standing there, my heart has opened. I'm already in love with what I'm seeing. The air is clean and fresh. The sky is blue. It's like I'm looking at this flowing river with the sunlight sparkling on it. Um, and wasn't expecting that because I hadn't seen it yet. I'd only been in the town, so I hadn't actually witnessed the river. So it was this opening. It's like this vista, this something opened, but my heart, I think it was just this sudden love, right? Like love at first sight, right? And 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 then this thing, I mean, how do you describe that? Because it's not real. It doesn't fit into logical reality. It's not an actual chord that you can see, except that I did see it and I did feel it. So it's energy or it's something, right? Because it was a feeling that came out of my heart and it was definitely there's no other way I could describe it. It was a chord that shot out. And you know what's going on? This is interesting. As I'm telling you this today, I remember a moment when I was maybe a young girl, maybe like 9 or 10, sitting at the piano, and at that point, I was resisting the piano lessons, and it wasn't, jazz, it was classical, which I did love, but there was a little tug of war going on in my life between that and my parents' wishes for me to do that and what I wanted to do. I was breaking out of that. And I remember sitting at the piano and stuffing my love for music down into my heart. It was a deliberate act, like, "I'm going to hide this from you now. You can't get it." And so that just came to me as I was talking about this moment where this thing comes out of my heart as if it was that part of me that I had carefully locked away all those years ago. I don't know if I've ever made that connection before. Oh my god, I'm gonna start crying. Wow. Yeah,
No words.
I know. And it also strikes me because it was a time where I was having to stop playing because I was not functioning well. And so it's interesting that what was about to happen to me for the next couple of years was taking away the piano playing for a while and connecting to nature. And nature became my, like the jam sessions that I used to have with musicians now were going to happen with nature. I didn't know this yet, but I still tried to stay in the city after this experience. I didn't immediately, you know, heed the calling, but I
Mm.
just got sicker and sicker in the city. And finally I left.
Mhm.
But it took a year or so, couple, let's see, 90, yeah, it took almost 2 years before I came up here and just couldn't do anything, so yeah, I was trying to keep everything going, and I was trying to keep playing and trying to keep teaching, but finally, the exhaustion just took over, and so I ended up coming here, and then I didn't play for 2 years. Yeah. And couldn't
Wow.
listen to music for 10 years. I mean, my system was just depleted.
Wow. Wow. There's so much here that I think still needs to be unpacked by you, with some journaling.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
excited. I am so excited for you. Yeah, these experiences when we recall them, when we share them, finding the words is such a challenge because these experiences are so visceral. There there really are no appropriate words if that's a word to use for this, but it is hard to explain. But once we do search for the right words, we open up other areas, I think, of the memory that are begging to be explored.
Yeah.
Oh, what a gift you shared with us, Kazzrie.
Oh, what a gift you've given me, you know?
I am so grateful. So grateful. So when you had this experience and you went back into the town, this experience, did it kind of propel you to continue looking? Did it make you go, okay? Like, did you have the conscious kind of decision in your mind that, okay, there's something for me here. Let me look further. Maybe there's something. Or was it unconscious?
No, actually, that was like, okay, let's look at another house, like, let's stay.
Right.
And that's what happened. And the next day, I saw the house that I ended up buying a few months later. It was just going to be an empty place to come to. That's all it was intended to be because my life was in the city.
Did you find that empty room that was in your image?
What's so amazing, that's an incredible question you just asked me because at first I believed it was the house, right? The house was empty and the house, I began this amazing relationship with the house once I actually moved here. But so the years went by, right? And I was getting better. And then I got called by the lodge at Woodlock in 2006, right, to begin teaching there, which I had, they called me. They were opening in a few weeks. They needed meditation, Tai Chi, Qigong. So they just asked me to work there. I mean, literally, it was a gift from nowhere, right? Like I didn't apply. Okay. So here's where I'm going with this. Probably about 10 years later, I'm in the room. The main room that I teach in at the lodge is called the Willow room. I'm in there doing Qigong, and it suddenly comes to me, oh my God, this is the empty room because this one only brings people in, but then it's empty. It never gets filled with stuff. It's an empty room. And this wasn't even built when I had the vision. It was only built years later. And then it was like, oh my God, because that room has, I've learned so much in that room. That room has been a journey in and of itself. And so for years, I thought it was the house, but the house filled up, right? Um, but this room has never filled up. And so
What a
she,
beautiful metaphor.
I know.
I'm sorry, I just spoke over you.
No, it's fine. Yeah. Yeah, so it's you never know where something is taking you, and it doesn't go with logical linear time. It doesn't fit into those things, and I would say another part of all of these journeys that we take is patience. Patience to just be with what's happening because you have no idea where you are being led.
Wow. I am blown away. And that Willow room, I have also had some beautiful heart-opening experiences too. And I am sure the energy of that room is very high vibration. It is it is the room that it's not the typical room where you're going to do some, crazy advanced yoga and, rigorous kind of exercise. This is the room that's chill, that is meant to bring you to another level of awareness and consciousness, and to leave that room with some greater opening of your heart.
Yeah.
And And I never really thought about it, but being that empty space is what is required for that transformation.
Yeah.
Wow, what a metaphor. Beautiful. Now, I just have to tell everybody who's listening to this that this is not the first time we're having this interview, because about a month ago, we did the whole thing and the video just, it wasn't working with us for that day. And Kazzrie so graciously agreed to come back on and talk about these experiences yet again. But I am so grateful for that. It is meant to be, because I'm asking questions that I didn't ask the last time. I mean, we didn't have some of these awareness and opening now that we're having today.
I know. I know. It's going its own beautiful river flowing into a totally different place.
Unbelievable. All right. So you went back to New York
Mhm.
to live and hopefully recuperate, but so that wasn't really working out. You want to share a little bit about that and what
Yeah, I
eventually
was
led you? Go ahead.
yeah, yeah, no, I just tried to keep my life going. That's where my friends were, that was where my family was, and and it just got harder and harder, and then it got harder to come up to the house.
Mm.
So in 2 years, I probably came up a total of 5 times, and and then I thought, "Well, okay, I guess this isn't working, and I better try to look for a place another place in the city," or and and so I actually put the house up for sale. And, was looking at other places in the city. Every time I walked into place, I just my heart sunk. It just nothing felt right. And again, I was just getting tireder and less able to do anything. Even taking the bus up here, and it was all way too much. So finally, again, a friend said, maybe you just have to go there. Even if you come back in a week, just take all your stuff and go there. Maybe you just have to uproot, right? And so that's what I ended up doing. I just made the decision, okay, I'm gonna go up to this house. And I was there a week when the realtor called me and said, there's someone who wants to come see the house. And I thought to myself, oh my God, there's no way. And so I took it off the market because my heart was happy, even though it was a very complicated time. And I did not know if I was going to be all right. I didn't know if I was dying or if I was going a little crazy because I couldn't really function well. Um, but this was like, again, a refuge. There was something that happened here. And so everything just was able to let go. And I knew I was going to just stay here for a while. I needed that. I needed to be away from everything and from the definition of who I was in the world. And gradually, I think what I got was the freedom to play that I got to some extent when I was a kid. I had a beautiful childhood, but there was this overriding thing of you've got to play the piano, you've got to practice the piano, you've got to do, da, 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 right? And now, for the first time, it was like, wait a minute, I had, the time and the resources to take some time off. And all I could do really was begin to walk by the river. I couldn't really have conversations with people. I couldn't go out and make friends because it was too tiring. So I was literally in a state of, solitude and quiet and silence. And that's all I wanted. And I still feel that at times, and I'm sure you do too, because you interact with people sometimes in your work, and there's something that has to happen in nature that only nature can give, which is that it's like that restocking, right? That beautiful drinking the silence and drinking nature's love, just drinking it. And that's all I wanted. I just wanted, it was like the river just was like the divine mother who put her arms around me. And my house was like the divine mother who put her arms around me. And I just let go. I let go. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. It's like, it just reminds me of, retreating to a cave, right? In older times, where monks would go and they would just, and the hermit would go up into a cave and retreat from
Yeah.
all interaction with humanity, say. Sometimes we just need that. We need that space. And what a gift that you were given to be able to do that. Wow.
Yeah.
And that is when the healing really began.
Yes. Yes. And it was a slow, beautiful unfolding. And again, lots of, because of what was going on, my being was really depressed in every sense of the word. So there was a lot of that, a lot of wondering, am I okay? I was reading, I mean, I would just be drawn to certain things. And at that point, it was just here. I couldn't really travel. I couldn't do a lot of things. And again, I just really couldn't interact. It took too much energy. So it was rich, right? And a little scary, but there was something underlying it. It's like, just go to the river. So that was it. Go to the river, you know?
I would now like for you to share how something new, when you started playing the piano again, how something new emerged for you to work to help others heal.
Mm. Yeah, so this was another surprise because I had been for myself going to the river every day and just knowing that I was being interacted with. I would hear this voice, come, watch my patterns. That was my first instruction. I would sit by the river and watch the patterns, and just it would take me into a very deep meditation. And sometimes, animals would come near, or birds, or there would be things that would happen from the stillness, right? So that went on, and I was taken different places. And what I didn't realize at the time was that I was being taught. I was being given something that would then manifest through this work that you were speaking of. So this is, a few years go by, and I was walking by the river one day with a friend, and we took a walk, and then we came back, and he was a person who loved pianos, and for some reason he got down on the floor, he rolled out on the floor and just went under my piano. And I'm not sure why he did that. He was looking at the underside. He was a person who was drawing. He made piano drawing. And at the moment he did that, this energy, like a tornado, came over me and whirled me to the keys. So there, all of a sudden, this energy is pouring out of me. It turns out he's under the piano with his hands and his feet up on the inside of the piano, right, getting the vibrations. This wild storm of music is going on, right? It's this experience, and so it went on probably for at least a half an hour. And then we come out of this experience and we're looking at each other and going, what just happened? And it was so wild that after that, I called another friend. I said, yep, would you come over and lie under my piano and let's just see what happens?
I'll do that. I'm one of those friends that would definitely try that.
Right. And so there is an in-between thing that had happened, which is that it had been happening to me in a series of things that happened when I was just by myself. And when I started to get back into playing the piano, I would turn on the tape recorder a little bit, and maybe I would play 3 notes, and that was it. And it was like I was keeping a journal, a musical journal, right? Just to explore, how do I get back into my relationship with this instrument? And so that was, evolving okay, this is preceding what I just told you. This energy came through one night, and it got recorded, right? And I listened back and I was like, wow, this feels like a gift to me. And so I began listening to it lying down on the floor. And this happened about 6 times over the period of about 9 months, right? Later, I understood, and this is wild, this is a leap. I understood that these were the story of my life in the womb. So here we go into other territory. But that is a big part of what I was being taken to in my healing experience. And I didn't have all the pieces yet. It turns out I had been drawing, expressing in art years before this, a story that then ended up being matched by these piano sessions. So when I began later working with other people, I began relating it to that conception to birth cycle. And so, because it's like going back into the womb to be under the piano. And so then it became this thing where we interacted with the river in the session. So this was the part, this modality evolved over years, and little instructions, little new things to do would come in. We were using water. I would have a beautiful vessel, an egg-shaped vessel, where a person would speak their intention into this water. Then we'd bring the vessel in while we were doing the piano session. And then they would drink the water after they had created their own energetic healing remedy. And then finally, what happened was we began taking some of that water back to the river and including the river, starting the session at the river, with the intention and with just what are we going to do here? Going back, doing the under the piano, and then taking some of the healing elixir, the water, and giving it back to the river. And that's when it came full circle. Like, oh my gosh, the river taught me this. And now the river is part of these sessions so that other people can have that experience of interacting with the river. Yeah, that's the one that got me. Right.
Okay. I think I'm gonna have to listen to this a few times, because wow, you're blowing my mind. Just this is a very shamanic type of experience that you're offering people.
Yeah.
The kind of like a rebirth, going back to the womb, and then the water. And I'm thinking about how their intentions, drinking the water, bringing the water back to the river, sharing the water with the river. It's, as you said, it's giving this ability for others to heal just by being by that river.
Right.
I mean, this is energy healing, and we talk about our vibration and our frequency reaching out to others and rippling out. So the higher our frequency, the farther it reaches. And this is, in a physical sense, pouring these beautiful rebirthing intentions into the river. And then like everyone who's around and experiencing the Delaware River is being uplifted.
And it gets carried down to the ocean, right? The river takes it to the ocean eventually. But also see, now none of this was an idea I had. None of this came from me. It all came from the river. And so to have that final thing so that people are like together, there's no separation between what we're experiencing and how we're going through whatever the healing process is, or the expressive creative process that a person is going through with this, and that it's not separate from the river and from all of nature around us. That's the piece, and that's what your book really brings that out, is wait, we're not separate. And so everything we do actually does affect me, but mostly we're unconscious. And so here's this little conscious way that literally, I mean, when that when that you know insight of light appeared, and it was like the river was saying, okay, now bring me back some of that water. That completes the circle. Now do you understand? I was teaching you all that time. Yeah. So you know, it's beautiful, and it's the magic of who we are, the magic of this beautiful life.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's that relationship that we open up to with the river, the water, all of creation when we have this full loop experience of dialogue,
Yes.
of reciprocity, of reverence and respect and
Yeah. Oh,
honoring. Just truly beautiful. Wow, what an exploration into something that we really didn't touch too deeply on last time. So I am so grateful. I do have a few more questions for you. Just in general, do you think we all have these experiences in nature? Maybe not as visceral as the one you had, but do you think we all have them?
I do. I absolutely do. And I think being able to have conversations about it, which is what you really, really brought forth in your book, right? Because people often they don't share this with other people. Like they may have an experience that they keep to themselves, right? Um, because it hasn't been our way of conversing in this world. We've gotten just taken away by so many other things. But when people start to share, then it quickens the energy and it amplifies the experiences. Then the next time all of us, have then they're they're more present for us. Like opening the conversation. I do think, and when I talk to people, everybody has their quiet moments, even if you're in the city. There's a little tree in front of your apartment. There's people make gardens. There's always some just looking up at the sky, right? The starry night. I do. I think this is, just so in our nature and so important right now to go to this, to be in this conversation as the world is getting a little seduced by, machines and gadgets. It's time to understand the much more complex, advanced technology of nature, right?
Oh, absolutely. And I'd like to ask you, how do you think this world would be different if more people had these experiences that they shared with others?
Hmm. Well, I think it would be a lot more playful and fun and gentle and kind.
Yes.
I mean, it is like being when we're kids, we know the river's talking to us, we know the trees and the mimosa, the mimosa blossoms are pink fairies. And
Oh my gosh, yeah, we talked about our mimosa trees on Long Island when we grew up. They were
yeah.
just delightful. Oh my gosh.
And we know there are fairies in the garden and we are meant to play, and all the mystic poets and they all talk about that. This is a playground. And look at the magnificent all around you. So I just think as other things are trying to accelerate and take us away from that, the more we give our attention to this, the more the energy will flow there. We know that from qigong. So the word that people do start talking about it and having the experiences. Someone was just on the radio this morning here, and they were saying, people come up to this area to do a talk or a project, and then you see them a year later and they go, oh, well, I ended up buying a house here. People feel the magic of nature, and I think more than ever, they're being called. There's a call to it right now. And that wasn't when I was coming up, it was more the call to the city, let's go where the excitement is, right? That's where all the artists are, and and of course the city is still wonderful, but there's 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 art and creativity and life outside of the city, and nature is the ultimate teacher of that. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, that just sounds like a beautiful wrap up to this conversation. I am so grateful again. Thank you so much, Kazzrie, for coming on yet a second time to do this interview. And yeah, I am so grateful to the divine source of all things that opened up all these new insights and curiosity. And I just love how you talk about playfulness. I think we need more of that. We need to have our imagination just run and play and have fun.
That's right. And the more I live, and you just said the word imagination. That's the key to everything. It's our superpower. It's our superpower.
Yes. Oh, grateful to you, Kazzrie.
I am so grateful to you. This is not what I was expecting. So I love that it wasn't, that we went, riding down a different roller coaster.
We just listened to where we were meant to go. And I thank all of you for watching here today. I'm sure you've been delighted by this conversation. I would love to hear any thoughts, any comments. Please put them in. We will respond. And please like and subscribe and share. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful, playful, curious day. Thank you for being a part of the Enchanted Earth podcast. Please hit the subscribe button so that you'll know when we publish another inspiring episode. Check out my book, The Enchanted Earth, available wherever online books are sold. Thank you and have a magical day.